thank you, Sarah, Jason, Nick. We appreciate y'all taking some time here to speak with us. Everyone in attendance, thank you for giving us some of your attention as well. What we're going to discuss today is going to be what leadership from afar looks like, right? And before we get into that, I want to introduce the folks that we have here on our panel today. So first, we've got Sarah Richardson. She's become one of the preeminent leaders of residential real estate in the Phoenix Valley. As the founder of the rapidly growing brokerage True Realty, she's responsible for the multiple growth avenues of the company she's pursuing. By implementing cloud technology solutions to keep costs lean, a sliding fee scale based off performance that keeps agents motivated with more money in their pocket, and a leading mentorship program to reiterate the True methodology of customer service, True is growing fast, and Sarah is leading the True team to great things. And I believe last I checked, Sarah, you had 4 locations?
Yes, 4 locations of Phoenix.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're familiar with leading people in multiple areas. Jason, on with us as well, has over 18 years working in the residential space and is a third-generation real estate professional. Jason's a founding member and principal owner of one of the largest KW conglomerates in Michigan.
Rand, you can just say I'm a buddy of yours. You know, they don't care. And no one listening cares. I sell houses just like y'all. All good.
He's a buddy. He has multiple offices in how many states? 3, 4?
Yeah, again, I don't think anybody cares. We sell a lot of houses. We got a team just like all of you guys. And I think we're all leading right now, whether we own the businesses or we're just trying to get through the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very fair point. That's a very fair point. All right, so there's Jason. He's a buddy of mine. And then we've got Nick as well. He, multiple locations, multiple states, located in Minneapolis, as well as some locations in the Dakotas, and has been in real estate full time since 2005, right? So a lot of experienced folks on the phone today, no question about that. So with that, like I was mentioning, the idea of expansion teams is not new, right? It's fairly old at this point, old if you will. But this concept isn't for everyone, right? It's not why that's why not every residential real estate team is an expansion team. Ultimately, there are folks who much more prefer to have face-to-face interactions. They like to be local with their team, but because of the situation we find ourselves in today, that's not possible. So I wanted to get some folks on today who can discuss what leading in a virtual environment looks like, because it's something they're familiar with up to this point. So this is kind of a question for everyone, and whoever speaks first, you go ahead. But what has been the biggest challenge in terms of managing your team and brokerage during COVID-19?
Well, I can start with that. You know, we bring on a lot of new agents. We do a lot of new agent training. And I think it's getting the agents that have been in the business 1.5 to 2 years or less motivated and not scared. It seems like the seasoned agents, you know, they've got their book of business, they've got their sphere, they've got their referral business going. They're really nurturing their database during this time, but it's really been educating the new agents that yes, real estate's an essential business. This is how we can do it safely. And also, you know, this is how you can stay motivated during these times. There are people out there that truly do want to buy and sell. And you know what? The ones that you're finding are actually real buyers and sellers. They're not these tire kickers. You're finding that you don't have to weed through people nearly as much. So it's really just keeping the newer people motivated has been my biggest challenge right now.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, I guess for my part, it's trying to get everybody to understand, depending on where you are in the country, that this is going to be different. Like you're going to show less homes and you're going to sell less houses. That's just what's happening. And you have to plan for that. Number one, you got to get your expenses in order immediately. I think you do that. You put them in 3 buckets, list your household, list your business, and then drop them into 3 buckets. What I absolutely need to keep running my life and my business, what I really like and prefer to keep, and then what can I get rid of right now? And I think you get rid of those things right now. I think you do that not because you can't afford them, but because there's going to be investment opportunity on the other end of this thing. And every dollar you don't spend is a dollar you get to invest. Expenses are things you pay for to maintain continuity. Investments are things you want a 4x return on. There's an awful lot of things to be getting that kind of return. I also think the challenge is getting real estate agents to understand that in the absence of being able to capture market share, you have to capture mind share. So usually it comes the other way, where you go out and you sell someone a home and then they become a past client and you own a piece of their mind and you maintain that mind share. Right now, if you're not leaving the house, and in some states you're not, you got to go all in and capture mind share. How can you say an emotional proximity? Remember, people do business with people they like. This pandemic hasn't changed that. The goal is still the same. And the mind share you capture today is ultimately the market share you get to enjoy on the other side.
Mind share, that's a good phrase. I'm definitely going to take that one from you.
It's yours.
Same.
Awesome, Nick. What do you think?
You know, our biggest challenge right now is just maintaining personal connection with our agents. You know, we're so used to seeing everybody in the office, and we do a lot of trainings as well as a lot of new agent trainings. I think ramping up communication has been the challenge to maintain morale, and to pass along valuable information, whether it be provided by NAR or provided by our local association, about what the market is actually doing. And then giving agents the tools so they can pass that information to their clients, because there's a lot of hearsay out there. There's a lot of, fear is dominant right now with what we have going on, and we battle fear with facts. So we pull our agents closer than we even did before, because with passive communication, you almost have to double your communication. So lots of calling, lots of checking in, lots of how's it going, lots of what do you need, and then reinforcing in our agents that they need to be upping their client contacts right now too. Our clients are at home, they're in fear, some of them, they're frustrated with the situation. So now is the prime time to talk to clients, talk to Sphere, talk to leads, because leads are sitting at home right now too. And I talked to an agent the other day who usually had a 2 in 10 lead contact conversation rate. They got a hold of 9 out of 10 the other day because leads are at home, right? So just bolstering our agents' toolkit, so to speak, and helping bolster their mindset, mind share. I like that too. And just keeping everybody stable. We'll get through this thing and the market's going to boom and things are going to be great. We just have to ride it out.
Absolutely. And I'm interested, Jason, you mentioned that there's going to be investment opportunities on the other side of this. Do you have a quick list off the top of your head that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I think your people are sitting at home and they're watching CNBC and they're watching their stocks and bond portfolios and retirement accounts plummet in front of their very eyes. And that serves to get everybody to remember recession. And what people tend to do is they remember the last rendition of whatever song they're listening to today. Meaning they think recession and they immediately think, oh my gosh, 80% off on real estate. The values of my stuff are going to implode. And that's just patently incorrect. In this case, we're not seeing that. This thing wasn't caused by bad mortgage-backed securities. This thing was caused by a virus. Now, that does mean that you have to be in front of your people giving the presidential address and reminding your data bank, like, hey, your homes didn't lose its value. If you wanted to move, I bet the reasons are the same today. And if you're not telling them this, I promise you all, they're assuming the worst. Because in the absence of true leadership, people listen to whoever is speaking loudest, and that's the media right now. So I think you got to get ahead of it, and I think you got to look up and you got to ask some questions. And I don't think we have to be a financial genius to ask them, which is, if all of a sudden tomorrow I could leave my house and do anything I wanted, what are the businesses that I used to frequent that I wouldn't? Like for me, I used to go to a lot of concerts. You know what? I'm just not going to do that. Even if Taylor Swift picked me up in a gold-plated limo today, I ain't going. So I'm going to short those companies. I'm going to bet against them. Now, there's other things that I think are great long plays that are on discount. And I'm asking, what is my 7-year-old going to love? Which companies is he going to love when he's 16 and 17? Those I think you go long in. And be honest with you, I'm still long on America, and I'm long on American home ownership. I think you can bet on Americans all day long to have short memories about pain and get back into pleasure really quick. And that means that if you can buy real estate at a deal, I think you should buy it. There's never the wrong time to buy the right house at the right price. And I think that there's small apartment complexes where you're going to see owners that may not be able to weather the cash flow uncertainty. I think you can jump in as a cash partner. And I think the greatest investment of all is in people and the return that you get on human collateral. You got 17 million people that had a job 3 weeks ago that don't have one today. And I'm looking up and I'm saying, how many of those people can I get into my world for less than I would have had to pay them before, ultimately on a path to make more money and live a bigger life than they ever lived before? And the truth is, this is the dynamite that you can use to blow up your competitors, because there's amazing talent sitting out there right now. You're watching some of the biggest companies in the world making layoffs. I promise they didn't hire these people because they weren't talented. It's a lot of talent on the sidelines. That's why I say cut your expenses and then reallocate those dollars to investments. People, real estate, stocks and bonds.
So this is a great segue into recruiting, right? You mentioned 17 million people on the sidelines now. I can't tell you how many posts I saw about Redfin furloughing and et cetera, et cetera. So how has recruiting been impacted in this instance for the three of you?
Sarah, you want to address that one?
Yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned, I mean, we go directly out of the real estate schools, and we've always been doing Zoom interviews and face-to-face interviews. So it's actually been more effective for me to be doing the Zoom interviews than having people come into the office. And I've always been pretty much in a virtual and a tech-enabled environment. So I think I have more interviews than most brokers locally, just because I was already prepared for this and I didn't even know it. So it's really just about the difference about having, and I think that Nick said this really well, is having a virtual, you almost need to follow up more, because I still think being face-to-face is more impactful. I still think that you can still read them a little bit better. You can, find out if they're good for your culture, they're good for your team, if they'd be a good player. But I still think that I can get through, several interviews per day. There's people that are interested. There's people that are still motivated in buying and selling real estate. And I also think that this potentially may push some of the part-time agents out of the market, which I prefer, because I'm all for making real estate a career, not a hobby. And if this pushes some of the hobbyists out and really focuses on some of the professional realtors and the people that we want to align ourselves with, I'm all for that.
Nick?
Certainly.
Hey, our recruiting's up. So our contacts are up, much like Sphere, much like leads. Recruiting calls are up, responses are up. We hired, I think, 4 agents this week. So people are sitting at home wondering what they're going to do with their careers right now. And now, if we've been maintaining contact over time and just laying that groundwork, it's almost like Sarah said, you kind of set the groundwork for this already. And you're just reaping the fruit from that right now. But we're having a lot of conversations. I think stability is key for agents right now. Knowing they're going to be with a stable company, stable broker, stable manager, whatever the structure is. Stability is calming. So we're trying to convey that we're still stable. Sure, the market is funny right now and the nation is a little funny right now, but this is all going to change. So.
Yeah, and for my part, I kind of look at it, Randy, like step one is I'm looking at it as re-recruiting everyone I'm already in business with, meaning like if the world is changing, that ultimately means that the tactics that we're going to use are changing. And I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And I'm going to start with the people I'm closest with, and I'm going to demand that they get the most value out of everything I'm providing. When times are good and everyone's running as fast as they can, they sometimes take some of the value add that different brokerage has, they take it for granted and they don't tune into it. They take the little piece that maybe affects their life. Right now, I think y'all need to be squeezing every drop of value out of the brokerage houses that we're all with. Meaning you're paying for these things. You got into business with these people. It's got to be culture-based. It's got to be tech-based. It's got to be model-based. You got to get the most out of it. And then I think you look external. The truth is, we're getting more incoming phone calls than we were when everything was copacetic. I mean, we're getting people that are looking up. And you never want to say there's a gift of a change, especially a virus. But if there was one, it's that a lot of people are slowing down for the first time in like 15 years. And it isn't a decided slowdown, it's a forced one. And I think that they remargin their life and they remargin their business. And this is when they take a look around and ask, am I getting the value and the support that I need? Which all of us on this call are business owners. I think it's really important to look up and assess the value you're providing and then make sure, and this is the misstep, that we're communicating it well. So often, all of us, we're providing so much stuff, and then you start asking your people and they're like, oh, I didn't really know about that. Or, yeah, I kind of heard about it, but I didn't really look into it. I think now is the time to really make sure everyone's clear on what you got.
And if they're not using it, time to get rid of it.
Oh, well,
yeah, certainly.
It's back to fundamentals. It's back to fundamentals for us right now. It's phone skill. It's communication skill. It's time. If you don't come out of this pandemic period as an agent with a higher skill level because you've had all this time on your hands, then we did something wrong. It's kind of what we were thinking. Now let's take the time, get our budgets figured out, get our business plan nailed down and altered, because of course this has changed the course of some business plans. Now is the time to get everything set and get yourself right before everything picks back up again.
And Nick, it's funny because now, like, it doesn't feel like lead generation every day to me. Like, I'm going through and I'm trying not to think of them as leads, and I'm really focusing on everyone in this data bank as a person. Just calling and using the Adele script. Hello, how are you? That's it. That's the whole, like, right now, like, that's the highest form of humanity. Like,
Yeah.
And if you can't wake up, now I know waking up and lead generating and getting on the phone, that's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I am saying that right now it's like your highest calling. Like, if you can take people that feel like frowns and turn them into smiles, and you can be the person in the middle, like if that doesn't set you on fire, then being in a people-to-people, knuckle-to-knuckle, belly-to-belly business, relationship business, it might not be the right one for some of our folks, and that's okay too.
And this might be the time where they realize that. So at the beginning of this year, 2020 kind of started on fire, right? Markets around the country were doing very well, January, February. People were running around, business was plentiful. And from our perspective, we had a lot of conversations from folks saying, hey, we're just so busy right now. We don't have time to review technology or make a change in our technology. But many folks, like the three of you, have already invested into tools and technology so that when times do slow down, you're still able to propel forward. So what are some of those pieces of technology that you have found to be especially beneficial in this slowdown type environment?
Nick, you want to hit that one? There you go.
This thing right here. That's what's going to serve us best. I mean, we're a relationship company is what we tout ourselves as. And right now, if our agents aren't on the phone, calling those clients and calling those leads and checking in with the Adele script, as Jason said, how are you? How's it going? What can I do? That's what propels us through this. I mean, we do lead generation as well. So we have some other great tech, but really the basis of relationships are what carries us through this.
Yeah, similar to us. We've been coming up with creative ways to love on our database, on our Monday meetings. So like, what are different ways, what are different things we can do? Text campaigns, voice campaigns, call campaigns, and most importantly, video, face-to-face as best we can to try to stay in love with our people. And they're not, I love that Jason said, they're not clients. They're, it's kind of coming back to that human element a little bit. And we've been talking about that a lot in our meetings.
It's so important. I think when the humanity meets the technology, that becomes the best incarnation of a real estate agent. And you look up right now, and so much of the technology is what's allowing the humanity to thrive. Like, I don't know, Randy, we're doing a lot with Facebook right now, and we're trying to do interviews as much as we can. Like, who in our data bank is a superhero, and can we do a 5 to 10-minute interview with them? Like, if you know a local nurse right now, interview that person, because you watch the news nationally, and it's scary. It's a local business built on local relationships. You got a personal trainer in there, do an interview. I can't be the only one overeating. You got a teacher in there, do an interview so some of us can stop screwing up and get better at this homeschooling thing. Like, I don't think you should be giving this advice. I think you need to stay in your lane, which is being a real estate fiduciary. But I think you can interview others. I think you can do some great small business stimulus stuff. Like, instead of, and don't get me wrong, going and picking up carryout at a small business is a great way to support them. And it supports them for like 8 seconds. Like, what if you put together a real small business stimulus plan for your data bank, where you call the 15 small business owners, you interview them for 10 minutes on Facebook, you do an email through your entire data bank about them, you do a mass text about them. And maybe the agreement is that on the other end of this thing, they're going to let you leave your physical newsletter in their place of business once a month for the next 12 months. Because that's win-win, and that's a stimulus for both the agent and the business. I think you can start doing a lot of that. I saw an agent the other day. They took a white sheet of paper, they had their logo on it, and they then PDF'd that email to their data bank and said, coloring contest, go. All these kids at home were coloring, and then they posted it on Facebook. Hashtag best realtor in the world, Jason Abrams. And like, this person's feed was filled with these. Like, there's so many creative ideas that way. And I think, though, and you asked the question about tech, so I gave you some tech ideas. The best piece of tech, though, might just be your whiteboard and a marker. Meaning, I think every business owner needs to look up and decide, what's the vision for this business for the next 90 days? Like, we all had our 5-year vision. We all have our year vision. What's the vision for this company for the next 90 days? That's step one. And in my company, we're going to replace market share with mind share, and we're going to love on people. That's our data bank. We're going to make withdrawals later, but we're going to make deposits of caring today. Might be different for yours. And then step 2, let's get everyone that works for us in a room and get group buy-in on that 90-day vision. And then step 3, I'm going to meet individually with each person and make sure that they're able to do the new tasks assigned to get to that vision, because there's going to be some new tasks if we're changing the vision. And then I'm going to make a new 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day task list for this person. And you know what? Then I'm going to do exactly what Nick said. If casual communication is down, meaning I'm not going to see you at the water cooler, then formal communication has to go up. And we're going to do 10 or 15-minute coaching sessions every day for a while. And you know what? It's going to be hard. And you know what? We got to support people personally, like Sarah said, which is, hello, how are you? And then professionally, which is, and we still have to be able to make our Tahoe payments a year from now, so we got to go to work. And I think all of that needs to happen immediately.
Mm-hmm. And so you make a great point. Those casual conversations and interactions happen less often. So what are some of the new practices that y'all have put into place in order to not only keep in touch with your clients, but also to keep in touch with the agents? Is there some, I see like Zoom happy hours are becoming really popular. I've done that with friends of mine all over the country. What is it that y'all are doing to promote that community within? Because I know culture is a big part of all of your businesses.
And we've been using Slack for probably about 3 years. And what's awesome is the adoption rate's always been around 50, 60%, depending on, who's in there per day. But I've noticed the adoption rate is definitely going up. So that's been great. The Zoom calls, more consistent Zoom calls, more consistent getting in front, doing the coaching sessions, like you mentioned, and just really, instead of just being on the phone, if an agent has a question, let's get face to face, let's look in the eye. And so I don't know if I'm technically answering the question, but I know the Slack has gone up for sure, and making sure that anytime an agent needs something, if we're doing it more face to face than just over the phone, I find like that we're being a lot more effective. And throughout the leadership team, even if it's just broker support or if it's coach and mentoring support.
Mm-hmm. Nick, a lot of the phone, right? I mean,
what's that?
You're using the same tools, phone and computer, to talk to your people more often.
As we all are, yeah. And we're just ramping up the communication amount. I do a lot of screen sharing lately. I'm kind of a tech and systems person for our organization, so I do a lot of how to do this and how to do that, and how-to videos, and kind of retraining on basic CRM and just getting agents, bolstering agents' skill level. Now's the time to be training them on things they maybe were not so confident in before. That's something
And for us, Randy, I mean, we're all using the same tech. I think I'm looking up and I'm realizing that we have to give people, what are we going to read and tell them to fill their brain with the stuff that they need right now? Like, it's really important, right? So there's that. But I'm also thinking, what am I going to give them that's going to fill their soul? Because I don't know about y'all, but like, this is hard. Like, it's hard to be at home. Like, none of this is easy, and it's scary. And I think you got to fill the brain and the soul. And for me, that comes down to, I'm going to give an opportunity each day to do both of those things. And I have some agents that opt in more for one than the other. And it's really interesting because some of my most analytical people will show up at that soul-filling discussion. And we're reading a book right now in that group called The Untethered Soul. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, I think it's fantastic. And we're reading Shift in the other book, which is, what are the tactics I need to put into my life to get through this? And I really believe if you're missing one of those two components, then you're not supporting people both personally and professionally right now. And I think you have to do both. And for some of us who are used to only supporting people professionally, it might feel a little weird. I think you got to do both today. And if you're not an expert, I think it's okay. Like, none of us are. Like, we're all buying toilet paper like crazy.
Yeah, we were talking this morning, I was on another chat about having a company-wide prom where everybody dresses up at home and we make Kool-Aid for the kids and like Mad Dog 2020 spiked punch, and I will put on my shoulder pads and we will have a company-wide prom. Prom got canceled.
That's so good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
pretty funny.
Our executive team has been really, I mean, I'm a DISC personality type D, so our I-type team members are really, really good at loving up the agents and putting them in a position where they can share something they're grateful for. I saw our broker manager the other day post on our Facebook page, hey, getting through this tough time together, what's everybody grateful for? And just the response from the agent population, just sharing what's going on. And one of them was really powerful and said, I didn't cry today. Like, wow, these agents are going through a lot, and they're with their families, and sometimes you're in prison with the inmates, right? You're home with 3 kids. So it's even harder to get some work done. So we really value these agents and want to give them an opportunity to share, because you're kind of captive at this point. So our executive team has been fantastic on doing that. So.
That's awesome. I mean, that's all good stuff. A prom because it got canceled. That cracks me up.
I was also thinking about maybe like a taco and tequila party for Cinco de Mayo. I don't know, but it's going to be company wide and everybody's.
And people need that, though, Sarah. I love that. Like the humanity. Like people are cutting their own hair right now. Like a prom just feels okay. Like look at Randy. Like you realize,
some people
Randy's not cutting his hair.
No.
I'll tell you what.
Definitely not cutting hair.
Well, you watch those like apocalyptic movies and you're like, gosh, I wonder how they ended up with all strange haircuts and wearing like leather loincloth. And you realize you're one haircut away and then making one item of clothing away. That's what it would be. It's crazy.
My brother just had a newborn, so we're doing a competition of who can go longer without getting their haircut, the newborn or me.
There it is.
Way to regress.
So I was reading this article the other day, and in it, the writer mentioned going all in, right? And she was referring to spending money on online leads, and we've kind of discussed a little bit about that before, with Jason mentioning some expenses, maybe not, maybe pocket those. But what does all in look like to the 3 of you? That concept of going all in.
If you wouldn't mind, Randy, I'm gonna answer this one, and then I got to bounce off and leave it to your other awesome panelists. I got another call I got to do here, but I'm gonna tell you this: the danger of continually to buy leads and then not following up with those people with frequency and intensity is an epidemic proportions within our industry. This is to say that our industry doesn't have a lead generation problem. I don't believe that, Randy. I think we have a lead conversion problem. And so right now, you have to look up, and I'll give the most basic way to check, right? If you look up and you have people in your data bank that you haven't physically tried to call on the phone in the last 30 days, you might not either A, have enough people, or B, you might have too many leads. Meaning, I think we have to call everybody at least once a month, because people do business with people they like. And if we're not talking to them, they don't like us. I don't want to overcomplicate it. And then number 2, are we sending hyper-local real estate information monthly? I think if we just did those 2 things forever, we'd all have phenomenal conversion rates. And I get scared every time I go into a data bank of somebody and I sort by their consumer, last contacted, least recent. And I realize that we have a ton of people that are paying for leads and then they're not contacting them. And I think that's what happens when you think of them as leads instead of people. If I told you that every one of those people needed your help and you were a change agent in someone's life, you'd force yourself to make those phone calls. And I don't think enough of us feel that way. But I want to tell you, for whatever it's worth, I think real estate agents in our own way are first responders. And I know some of you are like, wait a minute, that's a bit far. I don't know that it is. People need to move. People need housing. 26% of all the equity in this country, all the wealth is in the equity of people's homes. Real estate agents stand side by side with the consumer, protecting that wealth. That makes us a really important part of people's lives. And when we fail to take action on that and stay in touch and offer fiduciary, not just at the point of sale, but at all points, I think we've really let everybody down.
I don't remember the psychologist, but there was somebody saying the basic needs of people is food, shelter, and water, right?
Look, Maslow had a good point. Look, that's what these people were trying to solve for. That was it. And they were on an island trying to figure it out. We're not on the island, you guys. Like, I truly believe that when we fight for real estate agents to stay at the center of the transaction, it's not because we're all protecting commissions. It's because we're protecting consumers. And if anyone here believes that Main Street is best served dealing directly with Wall Street without a real estate agent as their fiduciary, then you're on the wrong Zoom call, I think. And if you believe that, then making the phone call tomorrow to ask somebody how they are and make sure that they're comfortable in their home and make sure that they have the best rate that they can get and make sure that you're part of their life journey, that's called just being a human.
I know
Absolutely. And I know you have to run.
But you have a question, Jason. What app are you using to prompt your backgrounds?
Oh my gosh! And by the way, the idea that Jason's really prepared for this, there are only the same questions on every webinar you go to, and I'm not using an app, guys. This is a green blanket that I took from my grandmother. Now she actually bought this color, but no judgment. I have that hanging behind me, and then if you go, you can choose your virtual background. And if you use a green screen with a light on it, then you can put any background you want, and you don't just look like a floating head like Randy does. You actually have dimension. So invest in a green blanket and a flashlight.
And a flashlight. Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Jason. We really
Thanks
appreciate it.
for having me, you guys.
Bye, Jason.
Sarah and Nick, it was an honor. Thank you for letting me.
Nice to see you.
So, Sarah, Nick, back to the question. How would you describe going all in? What does that look like to you right now?
For us, it really depends on the agent. I mean, we train on 6 top ways of prospecting. And so it really depends on the way that they've done their business plan from the beginning of the year, and really just making sure they're intentional about their business plan. Now, maybe they have to have some tweaks because maybe open houses. Now we are seeing some, but maybe they're going to have to really go full into working their sphere and grading their database. You know, that 7 levels of communication by Michael Mayer is something we really push in-house. So if you're working your sphere, now's a perfect time, like I said before, to love on your database. Call your A's one day, call your B's one day, call your C's one day, and really be intentional, like Jason mentioned just now, about making sure you're connecting with your people once a month. And there's no better time than now because everybody's sitting around, they're wanting to have conversations with you. But it really depends on what they've dialed into with their database. I mean, some of our agents do buy leads. Some of our agents work our lead programs that we provide for them through the Chime CRM. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay, but we just want to make sure that they're not doing 6 top ways of prospecting. Because if you're doing all 6, you're going to be pulled in way too many directions. Maybe you're choosing 2 or 3 of those ways and really getting intentional about what you're doing hour by hour and how you're time blocking. So whatever it is, you can still hit your goal regardless of what's happening right now with this virus.
Mm-hmm. During a time like this, when people have more time inside and they're less time in their cars and showing, et cetera, it's a very unique time. Would you be opposed to someone going outside of those maybe 2 or 3 top options they picked and exploring a 3rd and 4th prospecting method? Have you seen people do that?
Yes, I mean, some of the agents that did have open houses, their number 1 way of prospecting, have had to remove that and are adding in, maybe I will start calling internet leads, or maybe I will, start working more heavily in my database, or maybe I'm going to start creating online communities instead of going to my networking groups, creating networking groups. So just getting a little bit more creative about, how they're doing their outreach. But like I mentioned before, there are definitely people still doing deals, and we've all mentioned that in this call today.
Mm-hmm. Have folks who did rely on open houses, has the Phoenix area been receptive to virtual open houses? Is that something sellers have been comfortable with?
Absolutely. In fact, the CEO of Armless just announced that they're going to be creating a data feed specifically in our MLS for live open houses, where it'll come out through the brokerage's IDX feed. I don't know how other brokers are going to feel about that. That'll come out later, but there will be a data feed for people to post a live Facebook Live or an IGTV live open house for the consumer to see, so that they can literally get a tour of the open house. We've already had virtual open houses. I'm sure many of the MLSs have that feed in there. And it's really just training our agents now on how to use that Theta camera. We've had a Theta camera now for a year. Very small select group of agents were using that. Now it seems like that thing is being checked out a couple times a day. Agents learning how to use it. Doing the screen share like Nick mentioned, and just saying, okay, this is how you link the photos together. This is where we host it. This is how you share it. This is how you create a landing page in Chime so that you can embed that link and use it for free lead generation. So I kind of went on all over. That kind of probably pulled back to the technology we were trying to chat about earlier.
Yeah, they're all connected. It'd be silly to think otherwise. Nick, yeah, I'd like to kick those questions over to you. How are sellers receptive to virtual open houses? Are the states that you're in allowing those? What's the temperature check there?
Yes and yes. I couldn't have said it any better than Sarah. I mean, she really hit all the points. Our regional MLS is also doing an open house feed, and we're still doing showings. So we're still showing with care. Obviously, I mean, we've had sellers who leave the doors open and don't touch anything and don't touch any lights and just bring the buyers through and leave, and we'll lock it all up. Matterport has been a big increase in Matterport usage for virtual tours right now, and we've taken listings because of using Matterport. An agent was telling me the other day that that's why the seller chose them, because they're using Matterport. And I've used Theta before too, but those types of technology tools are really booming right now.
So is the brokerage providing the Matterport camera?
No, the vendors are. So
the vendors, okay.
Yeah, we're a big proponent of. We haven't done an in-house photography yet. I don't think we're to that scale yet. But we've been promoting vendors that offer those types of add-ons to their packages and really make sure agents are taking advantage of them.
What kind of vendors would that be? Just
photography vendors. Yeah, for photography vendors.
Photography vendors.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
A lot of them now have Matterport options. A lot of them did before, but now they're really pushing Matterport up front as the value add now for virtual tours.
Of course. And
of course, it works. So.
It certainly does. And for those of you who are on who may not know who Matterport or what Matterport is, but it's a 3D camera, right? So you can have a completely virtual 3-dimension open house, right? Or house layout, right? So is Theta the same thing?
Yeah, Theta's a little bit more affordable than a Matterport. So we bought one for the brokerage. We train the agents on how to use it. And then what we do is we host the 3D photos in a German software company called Ogulo, Ogulo. And what's cool is we can have branded 3D tours, which can't obviously go in the MLS. But we could put those, on Zillow and our websites, our personal websites, and then they have an unbranded tour, and that's the link that we put in. You can also create Facebook video from there. We can share it to Twitter and IGTV if we want to in our IGTV station. So it's just a great place to host. We can host up to 50 listings at one time for up to 6 months. And Ogulo has been really great. They've given us free hosting during this time, just so that we can really get used to teaching the agents how to host the software, how to link the rooms together, and really how to show their sellers. It's been a huge tool for getting listings right now. And I think this is going to be the new norm. They're also offering, very similar to what Box Ronnie does, they're offering an ability to do a floor plan for you. So I do think that floor plans are going to become the new norm along with the 3D tour. And I really think that sellers are going to come out on top with all of this new technology. And I think that hopefully the ease of the transaction will come down too, with people being able just to shop and really find out if the home is for them at home, and then possibly go look. And it's going to be less on buyers agents and listing agents, I think, in the future. And maybe we're getting into that, but I really think things are going to get better for us as brokers, for sure.
So let's go down that rabbit hole. How do you think seller expectations are going to change on the other side of this event?
I think we're going to see some residual feelings. I mean, it's going to take a while for this to wane, the thought pattern to wane. Of what we've all been adjusted to over the last couple months. But I think just promoting good procedures and good tech to maintain the virtual connection for people who still want to utilize primarily a virtual connection to a listing, and just keep offering it. I mean, we respond to what the sellers want, and as long as they keep wanting that, we'll keep offering it.
But then, there's a whole group of agents that are still resisting, a whole group of brokerages that are still resisting using some of this technology and sitting on the sidelines, almost pretending like it's the holiday season and just taking some time off, right?
Sure.
And then there's the drivers like us that are changing the way that we operate, providing more value to the sellers, providing more tools, more services, getting their homes sold faster. So the people that are really adopting this and running with this, I think are going to obviously end up on top. They're going to create a new standard for sellers. They'll be more successful, and sellers are probably going to start expecting to see floor plans, expecting to see 3D tours. And if they don't, they're going to go with the next agent that does.
Yeah, I know those
Certainly.
agents that are going into a listing appointment with that value added package are just kicking the butts of anybody who can't rise to that technology. So.
Yeah.
So 08 in the housing crisis kind of wiped out the underbrush of agents who were doing just a few deals a year, who are hobbyists, like Sarah mentioned. I would expect this, and as a result, I believe the production of the professionals increased, right? So you've got teams around the country, brokerages around the country doing hundreds and thousands of transactions, and the bulk of real estate business has been going through teams and brokerages. Now this event is going to have a similar impact, where it's clearing out the underbrush of agents who are treating this as a hobby. Do you think on the other side of this event, teams and brokerages are going to be taking an even larger market share from the individuals, from folks who may not have that kind of support? Because think of how many individual agents out there who don't have the type of brokerage support that y'all are offering. Are they getting out of the business? Are they joining a team? What do you think happens to production of teams after this?
I'll let Nick answer that one. I'm answering a question in the chat right now.
Boy, that's a tough question. As I know, agents are already moving. You know, we already see agents, agent calls up for recruiting. I really don't know. It all depends. The brokerages are all so different. It doesn't matter really what flag you're flying right now: franchise brokerage, independent brokerage, team structure. It depends on the value add and what you're offering to agents and what kind of support you're providing. And actually, the biggest thing we find that is carrying us through this is our vision. What's our vision through this, and what do we stand for? And we keep ramping up that type of communication. And people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. So it's not about numbers anymore for a lot of people. It's not about high splits anymore. It's about being part of something and being part of a group of people that you really identify with and really appreciate. And that's what will carry agents through this, from low skill to high producer. You know, everybody wants to be part of something. So I don't know if that answered your question, but.
No, that was great.
You know, I'm a little,
Do you think,
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to add on to that. You know, I'm pretty hopeful that this won't be as long of a stretch as what happened in 2008. I hope this is more of a blip. So I don't think we're going to have, you know, all these people just mass exiting the industry. I just think it's going to change the way a lot of us have to connect with people. And hopefully those that can figure that out will stay. But, you know, there's a lot of deals still to be had. I just don't think it's going to be lasting as long. Maybe that's wishful thinking.
From a brokerage standpoint, there's a lot of merger and acquisition opportunities right now.
Yeah.
So we're making calls to cohorts and people we've talked to or share board seats with or on associations with, just following up and seeing how they're doing through this time. So from a brokerage level, I think there's a lot of opportunity to start maybe consolidating people who are in some pain right now too. And we don't want to see that, but that's what happens in times like this.
Right, yeah, M&A, there could be a whole separate webinar diving into M&A in the real estate business, looks like. Sarah, is that something you're exploring as well?
Yeah.
Sorry?
I'd love to attend that one.
Is that something you're exploring right now, Sarah?
I've always been exploring that, just because we've been more of a shell than we operate as a team. You know, we're more of a brokerage. And so, you know, there's a lot of very small brokers that, you know, when we had about 30 to 35 agents, it was brutal because as the leader, I was selling and I was recruiting, and then we were trading, and it's a lot of balls in the air. And sometimes it's just easier to operate as a team, and to close your doors as a brokerage and just still keep doing what you were doing, keep your branding, co-brand with the current broker, and, you know, roll into something a little bit bigger as long as the cultures are aligned. I think that there's a lot of opportunity out there.
It's challenging as a brokerage right now. Financially, I mean, everything, we're going through our own set of challenges as agents are going through their challenges, as clients are going through their challenges. It's funny, in the past I've heard various trainers say that if you're operating anywhere between 6 and 60 agents, that's the death valley of real estate. You know, that always scared me, but it's true. You know, as a new brokerage, you're producing and you're trying to run a brokerage at the same time. We have to just keep steaming forward in recruiting and getting to these levels where we can maintain profitability through this tough time. And we do a lot of that through M&A and a lot of that through recruiting, obviously. So stay the course, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say, this is a two-part question. What would you say to those who are looking for a team or a brokerage to join? What are the absolute must-haves that brokerage or team must have before joining? And then what would you say to individuals who are looking to start a team or start a brokerage in a time like this?
What's the first question again?
What would you say to someone, if someone's shopping teams or brokerages right now, what are the what are the things that are necessary, right, in order for someone to join that team or brokerage? What do they have to provide before they are, no longer an option?
I mean, if I was an agent or a team, I would be looking to see the stability of the brokerage, what the brokerage is doing 1 year, 5 years, 7 years down the line, what their vision is, how they're staying ahead of the tech, how they're educating their agents, what they're looking for in terms of culture building. What does the culture look like? What does it feel like? And what does the engagement with the broker look like? I mean, there's some brokers out there that really don't have their pulse on what's going on in the marketplace or even what's going on within their organization. So I'd really, if I was an agent, I'd really be taking a close look at, day to day, how does the front office, how does the back office, what does the mentorship look like? What is the training? And really diving in and seeing if it's a good fit for you and your business, because I really think that Nick is right too. There's going to be a lot of consolidation happening regardless of this virus. I think just with technology in general and the way things are changing on a daily basis, it's leaving some people out in the dust that just can't scale anymore. So regardless of what's happening with the brokerage, it's just important to see, what the brand presence looks like, what the brokerage's future looks like before you make any decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell agents, I mean, everything Sarah said, plus I would tell agents, if they're just shopping splits right now, that's not the way to go. You need to really look deep at who you're joining and at least have an interview or two in person with a broker manager and really look deep. And are you identifying with this company and these people? And do you feel like they're good? They'll help you be successful through all these, through providing tools and training and everything you're going to need. Really have to think about it and not just go for the newest and shiniest high splits, because 90% of nothing is nothing, right? So don't focus on splits. Do your numbers. Don't focus on splits. Do your budget and really prioritize what you need as an agent, and then go with who you can identify with and who you feel good about. It's really a gut feeling for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that just about wraps it up for me and any of the questions that I had. I don't know if there's any questions that we're missing from the audience here. Here's one from Maynard. How would you show distressed property to investors during this time?
You can still do showings. So distressed properties are for the most part vacant. So we're still showing. So that's what I just show in person. If your association is allowing that or your state is allowing that, we're still showing. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
I probably do just a Facebook Live. I mean, a lot of times distressed properties are net to seller. I mean, we're a fairly large wholesaler in the state of Arizona. So a lot of times with those net to seller properties that are being assigned to you, they don't have an inspection period. They've got hard earnest money. So it's just important, if they are vacant, that you get in there, you take just take a video for your client and send it to your investor as soon as possible, because a lot of times those puppies go pretty fast.
Well, and you've got to have a lot of good upfront research and conversation with that investor to find out what their goals are in that purchase first. Like, don't take an investor lead and go show them a bunch of stuff or them a bunch of stuff. I mean, you really have to have some good sit down time with that investor to find out their goals first. As Sarah mentioned, that's the smartest way to do it.
So that actually brings me back to something that I wanted to ask earlier. We talked about seller expectations changing, maybe needing virtual floor plans and things of that nature. How do you think the buyer experience can be improved through this? Do you think people are going to come out on the other side of this more comfortable looking at homes virtually and through 3D maps? Because I know many agents struggle with buyers when they say, I want to go see 12 homes on Saturday, right? A virtual experience is going to cut some of those conversations out.
I do think that's going to happen. I do think that buyers are going to want to see less because they'll be able to shop a little bit better and weed out what maybe doesn't fit their criteria. And, I also think that this leads into, we've been having these conversations for years, but I think it's going to start accelerating rate compression, because agents are going to have to do less. They're not going to be showing property as much. And this is, this is a 3-5 year vision for me, but I do think, we're going to see commission compression happening. And it's, if you have to work less for a deal, it makes more sense. You're just going to have to increase your volume and increase your prospecting. But I do think that this is going to help buyers, agents work less time on a file. Yes. Long-winded answer.
No, that's what I want. And so you said this is going to compress buyer commissions. Mm-hmm. Do you think is that both on the buyer and seller side, or you think buyer agents are going to start being forced to accept less?
I think buyers agents are going to be, I think the listing agents are already accepting less. In my market, they are. And I think that this is going to help the seller pay less to the buyer. And so the selling agents will be collecting a little bit less. I think this will happen very, very, very gradually. But the minute I started seeing all this tech coming into place with us trying to, do live open houses and getting people to buy properties from their couch, it was the first thing I thought. I was like, wow, selling agents are going to be making less in the future. That was my gut. I was telling you that.
Nick, any thoughts there?
In our market, we've stayed stable. So that's really all I have to say about commissions. We've been stable. There's always different commission structures out there. There's always listing agents, listing companies doing what they do, and it's always been there. I have no fear about value. I think right now we can reinforce value even better than we were able to before by the human connection. So I think through the wave of iBuying and all those types of programs, which we've seen some failure in lately with some major players canceling contracts, that just reinforces the human connection. And real estate's complicated. It's really complicated, and buyers are really smart and doing their research for up to 6 months before they even want to talk to an agent, which is natural. That's smart. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the transaction and the expertise that's required, I think that's going to stay stable. And that hinges directly to commissions to me. So, but there's all kinds of variances to that.
Yeah. I mean, Phoenix is kind of the hotbed for testing all this stuff. And so we're a little unique, and, this is where iBuying started. And so it seems like what I'm starting, and like I mentioned, this is really slow, because I don't want to freak anybody out, but it just seems like as friction gets reduced, it seems like there's a somewhat of a correlation with commission compression. And it's not a lot. I mean, all luxury agents are getting pretty much their full 6%, but on the bottom end of the market, you're just seeing, they're open doors fighting for it. iBuyers are fighting for it. These are entry-level properties. You are seeing a little bit of discounting starting to happen. And so, like I mentioned, it's going to be gradual, but I do see as friction goes down and technology helps us, doesn't replace that human element, but helps us be more in front of our clients, but with less time, I do think it's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. So Gary asked a question I think Sarah has an answer to. He asked, is there a way to film a house? And I think he means and screen out the valuables. Yeah, is that a Box Brownie plug opportunity right there?
Which one?
Gary's question, is there a way to film a home screen, film a home and screen out the valuables, like edit out
Yeah, they would be a perfect
things in the
solution for
picture.
that. Yeah. So you would just take your, your Theta and you would upload the photos into the Box Brownie portal and then they would edit them for you. They can do an enhancement for like $1.50 a photo down to. So they're really affordable and you can do nighttime shots with daytime shots. I mean, they can pretty much do anything to a photo for you. Yeah.
Yeah. If those aren't familiar with Box Brownie, that's a great company right there. They'll be able to help make those edits to photos in order to screen out valuables if that's something that your seller is concerned with, that's for sure. Let's see. What else do we have on here? Gary has answered. Sarah, can you provide some more clarity on Ugolo? Who is that? A German company?
Ugolo, yeah. Ugolo is a German-based tech company where they will host your 360 virtual tour for you. So for us as the brokerage, we provide the camera because the camera's gone down in cost. I think last year we bought it for $700. I saw it on Amazon for like $380. So it's about $380 for the camera. You could buy it yourself, talk to your broker, maybe they'll buy it. And then as a brokerage, we pay for Ugolo, Ogulo. I put a link in somewhere in this chat. And you just upload the photos through a USB drive and you link them together and you can do them branded to your brokerage or unbranded for MLS. It takes us probably 5 to 10 minutes to link a photo. They will do a floor plan for you if you don't want to go to Box Brownie or anything else. You can get the floor plan there. They don't do any enhancements, however, or any virtual staging. So if you do want it, you're going to have to go to a third party for that as well. But you can edit them. You can do pop-ups. You can add music. You can add light, all kinds of different features, and they'll give you a link to share to social media, to share to an ad. You can create, they'll give you code to embed into a landing page, and you can share that landing page out to your sphere as well. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. It's very affordable. I think they charge, right now we have free hosting, but for 6 months, it's about $120 per listing to host for 6 months. So it's not bad. It's definitely affordable. And I know I feel it's a better solution than going to a third party for Matterport because you have control over what it looks like and you can really wow your sellers with it when you're on listing presentations.
Very cool. So last question here from Maynard. He said, any thoughts on distressed multi-story buildings for rehab at short-term patient care or selling to cities for affordable and or public housing? That's definitely an investor style question right there.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of investors, but I can tell you that it seems that the demand in Phoenix for multi-housing hasn't gone down at all. In fact, the demand for affordable housing has never been higher than ever with people losing their jobs. So I don't really see that being affected in my market at this time.
I actually don't have time to answer that question. That's a big one. And I have a 1 o'clock, so I apologize.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's all good. We'll let you guys go. Thank you all so much for your time today. Nick, Sarah, really appreciate it. I hope everyone got value out of this.
Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
And y'all take it easy.
Bye, Randy. See you soon.
Bye. See you soon.